Hello everyone, this is Patty Behan and I want to thank you for tuning in today. In this video we're making this cute Christmas tag, perfect to put on a Christmas gift for a loved one or a friend. We'll be using some mica stains and some embossing glaze, some texture pastes, and Holtz stamps and stencils. So let's get started. To begin, I'm using distressed heavyweight cardstock that I cut into a number 8 tag. And I'm going to be using this Merry Misfit stamp set and the Snowflake stencil here. And I'm going to place the Snowflake stamp onto the acrylic block and I'll ink it up with some Prize Ribbon Distress ink. And then I'm just going to stamp it in the top left-hand corner to begin. And then I'm going to repeat and stamp it into the bottom right corner. And don't forget to ink up your stamp again. Okay, and now I'm going to take this Icicle Crackle paste. This is a new kind of crackle paste that has like a shimmer to it. I don't know if you can see it. There's some mica powder in there to give it a clear shimmer, and I'm going to place it in the other corners, and I'll put my stencil down. And then once I do that, I'm going to take a palette knife and put some of the paste on the back of the knife, and you'll see it has kind of almost a fluid consistency to it. It's not like your regular kind of paste, and this will crack as it dries. It does take a little bit longer to dry, and also of note, I'm working on craft heavy stock here, so the craft paper is very absorbent, so it almost looks like oil spots, but it still works for this technique. So I'll bring it closer. I don't know if you can see the shimmer there, but we'll just put this aside and we'll let it dry. Okay, and so now we're going to do all of our embossing. And first we're going to work on our sentiment here. I'm going to use the Ho 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 and Merry Christmas, and I'll stamp it both at the same time, even though I'm going to cut them out later. And I'm placing those on the block, and I'm going to use some white superfine detail embossing powder and distress embossing ink. I'm using the superfine embossing powder because they're small letters and we'll get a better crisp image from the embossing. So you ink up the stamp, and I'm working just on a regular piece of black cardstock here. And then after you stamp it, you sprinkle the embossing powder over top, remove the excess, and then we're still going to do some more embossing, so I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to stamp out our next thing, and I'm going to be using some Hickory Smoke embossing glaze, and I'm going to use this cute little Santa here, and we'll ink this up with some embossing ink, and I have the craft heavyweight cardstock here. And once I ink that up, I'm just going to stamp it on the middle of the cardstock here, and later we're going to cut this out as well. Let's place a piece of scrap paper underneath and pour the powder over top. Take off the excess. If you missed a spot, you can always go back. And return the powder to the jar. And then we can heat this up to melt them both. And one thing about the embossing glaze, it's see-through, so that means that it's going to change the color a bit depending on the paper that you're using. And now we can go ahead and emboss our sentiments here. Okay, once that's done, we're going to go back to our Santa now, make sure he's cooled, and we're going to color him in. So I'm going to use Picket Fence Distress Spray Stain and some peppermint stick mica stain and empty tomb mica stain. And to begin, I'm going to shake up the picket fence stain, and I'll get a paper towel here and I'll remove the cap, and I'm just going to paint it in with a paintbrush. I'm going to paint the beard and the mustache, the top of his cap, and the little pom-pom there. And as I said before, working on the craft paper, this is very absorbent, so if you like, you can go back and do another coat once it dries. Okay, now I'm going to take the peppermint stick mica stain and the empty tomb for the shoes. So now that he's all colored in, I'm going to add some texture to his mustache and his hat with this grit paste. This is Snowfall. It comes in the set with the Icicle. And again, I'm going to do the mustache, the brim of his cap, and the pom-pom. And I'm using a palette knife, and I just put a little bit at the tip. It's kind of tricky to get in these small spaces, but if you just put a little bit at the edge of your knife, you can get that on there. And you don't need an even coat, just make it so you get some texture, just like dot it and dab it on there. Okay, so now you can see that, and we're going to put this aside to dry, and I'm going to come back and work on the background of the tag. Okay, so now I have our tag that has been dried, and I'll bring it up close so you can see like the little cracks barely, and you can kind of see the shimmer in the camera there. And I'm using the Snow Flurries mica stain, and I'm shaking this up off camera before I spray it, and I'll just randomly spray it on the background. You don't have to do full coverage, but you can if you like. And now I'm just letting that soak in a second, and then I'm going to take a paper towel and just blot it, because I want to remove some of the stain from the Crackle paint. So let me show you how it looks, and you can see the shimmer, but it'll get even more shimmery once it dries. The mica comes out more after it is fully dry. So I'll heat it up to speed up that process, and as you can see, it really made everything pop. And now I want to get a little more ink on top of those cracks on my snowflakes to make them stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to take our prize ribbon again, and I'm using a dome foamed applicator on the mini blending tool. And this is a night snow scene. Santa is getting ready to go on his sleigh to give his presents. So once you do that, you can see the ink that fell into the cracks, and it just gives it a little more texture to it. Now we have our Santa that I cut out already, and of course it wouldn't be complete without googly eyes. I'm using our multi-medium to glue them down. I'm just going to put some glue on the eye sockets and then put the googly eyes on there. I just love how this looks with these on here. It just gives it so much more character. Isn't that cute? So now we're ready to cut out our sentiments. So let me grab those here, and I'm just going to do this freehand. It doesn't have to be super straight, and we'll cut them close to the edge of the words and maybe put them on a little bit of an angle there, and then we'll adhere them with this clear adhesive foam by Letter It. And it's a double-sided foam. It gives it nice dimension, and since it's clear, it becomes invisible and you don't see it peeking underneath. So I'll go ahead and place that right there, and then we'll also pop up our Santa. And put him right there. and you'll see how it just makes it so much fun, and he pops off the page. And now I have some ribbon here. This one is about 12 inches long, and then here's some tinsel ribbon. That's about 20 inches long. I'm going to place them together and crease it in the middle, and then we'll put it through the back of the tag, and both pieces are together. And you'll just have to squeeze them together so that you get it through the hole here. And then once you do that, you open up the loops together and put the tails through the loop, and then pull it tight. And you have to be a little gentle with this tinsel because you could rip it. It is a little delicate. Okay, and now we're going to tie a little bow. And to do that, I'm just going to tie it just like so, make bunny ears, and then pull it tight. And then we'll adjust it so that the edges of the bow reach the edge of the tag, and then trim off the other ribbon up here on an angle. And then that's it. You have this beautiful festive tag, perfect to go on top of a Christmas gift. So if you'd like to try this project, we have a full supply list in the description box below. And if you'd like to watch more crafty videos, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.